Hey, wait, hold on. There we go. All righty, guys. Hey, True Believers, England team here. I'm with Dalton, the Authenticator. I'm with Black Cat. Things are happening around the Twitterverse. I watched a video by Diversity in Comics, Richard Meyer, your boy Zach, whatever you want to call him, and it was about T. Franklin. And I was like, you know what? On Friday, I'm going to talk about this. It's kind of funny. It sounds like it's just one more comic book creator going off. And I haven't, as Dalton just said backstage, I haven't had a old man yells at Twitter thing in a long time. So why not? Friday, let's do this. And in the meantime, Wes from Thinking Critical did a video, and he has up T. Franklin. And what I think is funny is because the title is like T. Franklin is the worst person in comics! Exclamation point. I don't think he actually does that, but point being, it's a statement in the title, and then it's got him in his. I can't do that face too much, but
the self-serious, over-dramatic pose.
Then in the background, it's got a blurred out picture of T. Franklin with a question mark. So, Wes, are you telling us she's the worst person, or are you asking us is she the worst person in comics? Because that's two different things going on here. My title, question, never met her, but I can say this. I have read a lot of tweets when you're, I haven't, like I said, haven't done this in forever. Haven't done a old man yells at Twitter, as Dalton put it. But I could say this. T. Franklin cannot write comics. She is horrible at it. She is. I just read one tweet as I'm looking for the original thing that Diversity in Comics, Richard, your boy Zach, whatever you want to call him, the original meltdown he was talking about is buried beneath so much bile from her on her own Twitter thread. I can't find the original thing. It is just so bad. But I was thinking, okay, let's make it a question. Let's answer a question. And today, I invite everybody to bring up their stories. Who actually is the worst person in comic books, and is it T. Franklin? Because we do know, A, she cannot write. B, she doesn't give a about destroying comic characters. And this is just on the page. You know, forget about is she having a meltdown on Twitter and everything like that. But actually, we're not going to forget about it. We're going to bring that shit up too. And let's actually talk about this and answer the freaking question. The person who put it into my Twitter DMs, it's a whole group we have, is Mr. LK, and he's with us too. How are you doing, sir?
Hey, good evening.
All righty. This is something. This woman is just going off.
Yeah. Well, can I just start out real quickly? So she first crossed my radar several years ago. I think it might have been through a Bleeding Cool article or something. And at the time, it was more of she was some kind of independent writer who had a book or two, but always seemed to be getting on comic book panels or whatever. Mm-hmm. And I, at the time, half joked, it was like, oh, because that was also the time too where mags started kind of melting down a little bit. Yeah. And I go like, oh, she's going to be, the next one because she's one higher up on the stack.
Well, yeah, she's not just a man who thinks he's a woman. She's black and in a wheelchair.
Yeah. And
no, I don't think.
Well, I don't think. Finish this though.
Let LK finish and then jump in.
Sorry, just real funny was I remember reading that article going like, oh yeah, she's basically mags, but she's much saner. Because I had at that time she hadn't gone like in batshit insane on Twitter yet. And I was like, okay, so they're going to replace mags with this person who meets the same criteria, but seems to have a level head. And boy, was I wrong.
Yeah. Oh, and by the way, first of all, Evil Black Cat, please, by all means.
Yeah, what I was going to say is I don't think T. Franklin is trans.
No. Mags. Mags is a guy who thinks, or he tells everybody he wants to live as a woman. So
T. Franklin does not have that advantage. That advantage goes to Vita and the Vita clones.
Yeah, no, but on the progressive stack, though, she's a minority. She's, different sexuality, and is disabled. So she had, like the +3, whereas Mags was only like +2.
Does disabled from trans now? That's news to me. That's never
No,
worked
I
for
don't
me.
think it does. I honestly don't think it does. You've had your day. Yeah.
Well, you have to add them all up,
So what you're saying
Nerdette's actually defending the Harley book that she wrote. By all means, Nerdette, if you want to jump in, I'll send you the link, and you are welcome. And it's of course no dog pile or anything like that.
Her Harley book where Damien was hitting on his sister.
She's not a good writer, guys. She really is.
They made Cassandra Cain and Damien a thing, and Cassandra Cain is Damien's adopted sister.
Okay, adopted.
Yeah.
So it's a Brady Bunch thing.
Yeah, adopted doesn't really have quite the EU factor, Black Cat.
Also, she's like 10 years older.
That once again. Well, wait a second. Yeah, if he's 13, she's 23.
Yeah, but they wrote her as a kid in this.
And it was
Damien was also raised by assassins, so he's probably a little bit mature for his age, just because, raised by assassins.
Right.
I don't think he has much childhood innocence to ruin.
No.
Oh, no. Okay.
Hey, comics, everybody.
Well, this is comics. This is writing. This is writing Cassie as somebody who's 23 and would go after a 13-year-old.
Well,
and here's the thing.
It's the whole Terry Donna situation again.
And I guess if you're writing one 10 and she's 10 years older, if you're writing one, let's say, or one is either older or the other one younger, you're not writing that character, which is just par for the freaking course as far as a lot of mainstream comic book writers today. Know the characters, then write them. Unfortunately, we do get a lot of writers who say, "I am the character, and I'll write me into it." We just had, like, as I keep pointing out, and I will to the end, till the end, where until they get him off the freaking character, write him as Superboy, and then tell a story. Tom Taylor telling everybody that he is going to be, and he does put his politics into Superboy. Yeah. So they're right now, if you're talking about, do they write the characters wrong? Do they disrespect the characters? T. Franklin is one and just a drop in a bucket. She is just one fish in the sea. That is.
England literally had to remind me who she is when we jumped on here.
Yeah. Well, I did put together a thumbnail. I haven't put it up yet or something, but let me see. Do I still have the photos up? I probably do not. But yeah, she's just black girl. She's in a wheelchair. She is horribly angry all the time, and she uses her disability. And by the way, I actually told Dalton, I need a disabled face. Come on over. Let's
Yeah. Behold the card which you now have for the approximate length of this live stream.
Yeah. Nerdette saying her book sold well. Big deal. So did Civil War. Civil War was a horrible, horrible, horrible story that took characters so far away from who they were.
Civil War was the beginning of the end for Marvel Comics. I stand by that.
There's a lot of bad stuff makes money. It just does.
Yeah, basically it's fans of the show just bought it as not read it just for the collection.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
It's horrible the way they
I mean, again, this is another instance too, though, of somebody who at least appears to have far outside or has power that's far outside of their talent and production.
Talent?
Because it's not a meritocracy, it's an aristocracy, a moral aristocracy based on identity.
It's an idiocy.
That's what it boils down to.
We're slowly heading towards an idiocracy. I pray it takes a little longer than my lifetime.
I still can't believe I was looking for the original story, the story that I was looking for, and it is so buried under a whole bunch of. I have never seen somebody embrace being a victim while telling people she's not a victim so loudly. so freaking loudly too. It's
well, it's a combination of embracing the victim, and then at the same time, I remember, and I think the first just spurg out that I saw of hers that I went like, oh wow, this person needs a lot of help, was even before the infamous Harley comic with, you know, what she did, you know, turn Vixen and the giraffe tongue and all that crap. But it was like, oh, let me look at her Twitter feed a little bit, and it was all either talking about sex or talking about marijuana use, and just the most, like, you know, at least, you know, to this, you know, suburban, you know, kid, was just like, good God, what are you doing putting this out there in public?
It's a different era, man. It's to some degree, that kind of stuff is just, people are more open about that kind of stuff now.
Yeah.
Okay, so the first thing that was shared today, apparently Ethan Van Sciver shared something, but you can't link to it, and I'm looking for it, and I can't find it. It's apparently T. Franklin and Mark Wade had a run-in, and she's saying that he dropped the N-word on her, and I swear to gosh, I can't find that.
Yeah,
I can't find that tweet except for the share by Ethan Van Sciver, and I'm not going there. I need to find it on her page. But
well, chances are, like she's done with a lot of other stuff, she's probably said something and then turned around and deleted it. Yeah,
so
you might have to go
if she can't prove it, it's liable, isn't it? Like, can't Mark Wade sue her for tweeting that out?
I mean, well, certainly. I mean, you can always sue. Whether he'd actually win or not is a completely different story.
The thing is that kind of, especially, I mean, in these days,
would he win? Because I doubt that she has any money to her name at all. So
he'd win public spectacle, if nothing else.
Yeah, well, because
I love their public spectacle.
Just the accusation alone, if people took it seriously, just the accusation alone could damage his reputation enough so he doesn't get work.
Yeah. Well, the problem is that you know, Wade's lawyer buddy is a little busy with his own issues right now, so I'm not sure, you know, Mark could go after anybody.
Yeah. Now what it says is Wade said the N-word to my effing face in front of fans, explaining why he had the right to say it, but that's not racist. No, it isn't. And I'm sorry, but if you're not saying it, if you're not calling somebody,
if it's a meta discussion about the word itself, who gives a crap?
Yeah, but
no,
unfortunately, the way it's done is in any use whatsoever is trigger enough to for some people be okay for a black person to go on violence. Hold on, let me finish this, because I really want to clear this point up, since I brought up the N-word and everything. Because first of all, if you are allowing yourself to be triggered by a word to the point where you resort to physical violence, that's on you. You're a freaking child. Wake up. Get the fuck over it. Okay.
Yeah. Category error.
That right away. But you're talking about is the presence of the word in itself, like just the existence, racist. It's proven time and time again when one black person says to the other black person, they call each other that it is not just the word. So then you've got to bring up the fact that, is it then that even in a non-racist context, a white person says the word, but not in a racist context, in a non-racist context, is that racist? If you feel so, sorry, you are the racist. That I'm telling this, I told you I'm going to stop coddling. I'm sorry. Things need to be broken down. I said it before. You want to talk about racism? I'm sorry. I don't think you are ready to have that conversation. I know T. Franklin isn't, and I've seen some of the comments that we're going to be talking about here in just a little bit, and her fans aren't either. Her fans are fucking racist, period. She is a racist, period. And she uses white as a slur, thinking it's okay. A lot of people nowadays think that using white as a slur is okay, because apparently Our ancestors, not us, our ancestors did it. Our ancestors had some sort of privilege that you're applying to us. And I'm sorry, that's not how it works. America is based on individualism. Oh, no, it's based on racism. You're a fucking idiot, too, if you believe that. Wake the fuck up. And I'm sorry, I'm going to say it once again. If you lose your shit to the point of violence because somebody said a word, that's on you. That's not on the person who said it. The person who said it, you consider, especially if it's in a racist context, you consider the most ignorant of us, and you let the most ignorant of us control your emotions. Get the fuck out of here. Get it. Like I said, get over it. Okay, I'm sure that stirred somebody. So let's.
It's also a fundamental category error to respond with to words with violence. Responding to words with other words or responding to words with indifference is entirely reasonable. But responding to words which are in the vocal and verbal dimension with violence, which is in the physical dimension, is a fundamental category error, regardless of the moral component, regardless of the circumstances. It's literally escalating one dimension up when you don't need to.
In the 70s and 80s, when I was a kid and then a teenager, we had this saying: "Sticks and stones can break my bones, words will never harm me." Point being is, it's a freaking word. Get over it. And that, by the way, is if this is true. Once again, I can't find it on her page. She may have deleted it. I don't know. I don't know, but
I mean, let me just
ahead,
jump in real quick, because I mean, the one thing, unfortunately, that is we've seen multiple times, just even recently, where a host on Bleacher Report, which is a sports website, media place, got fired because he was reading off some rap lyrics and accidentally said the wrong word.
Hey, you don't want that word to be said. Don't rap them every 5 seconds. I'm sorry. Don't use the damn word like it's your own last name.
Between that, and we've seen, there are multiple instances of, college professors that have been suspended or in cases fired, where they've got into discussions, about, say that word or other quote unquote slurs or what have you, not directing at anybody, but somebody, student literally asked a question about, is this, appropriate or whatever, and, get into what you would think would be a discussion about it. And, next thing you know, he's getting called to the administrator's office because somebody's complained and either suspended or fired. So, as much as we want to say, yeah, this is idiotic, the problem is that it's very effective in certain circles, to drag people through.
Yeah.
Some idiot got offended because that word is basically black in Spanish. So they actually went after Crayola.
It's EGRO that is closer to the word for black in Spanish.
Someone actually went crazy because the Spanish version of Crayola's had that word, and they were like, "This is offensive. You should change it." Blah blah blah.
It's a word.
Of course, there's the other niggling little detail that word literally comes from the Latin word meaning black, and that's all it has ever meant.
Yeah, and don't use that word either, because it could be heard as it. A lot of people don't know that the word that you just said means small, and yet because it sounds so much like the word we're not allowed to say, you can't use it. I'm telling you right now, you cannot use it.
But
okay?
I mean,
apparently, I am.
Which online game competition was, but there was a group of Japanese playing it, and the Japanese word for runaway, and it's a shooter game, so they were saying runaway or retreat.
Mm-hmm.
The Japanese word sounds like that, so the entire group got banned.
Yeah.
Well, and then
it's ridiculous.
Anime fans know what I'm talking about.
But here's the thing:
a wonderful South Park cartoon too. So
But here's the thing, and this is something you brought up in the DMs, LK. It's Mark Wade.
Yeah.
If there is somebody, absolutely, you could see being arrogant enough to think that they could get away with saying this to somebody. To call somebody,
I could see Mark doing that on one of his off days.
Arrogant, where if they kind of got in a shouting match or something, talking about when it's appropriate to use this, it's perfectly believable. But all of that being said, if you're going to accuse somebody like this, you damn well better have proof.
Oh yeah, she should have popped up with she should have popped up with the video. If you're going to say that, because unfortunately, like I said, just the accusation of that can get you in all sorts of trouble. I'm actually surprised. I wouldn't be surprised. The reason I can't find that is because she deleted it.
Well, I'm curious, has anybody sacrificed their computer yet to check and see if there's an article on Bleeding Cool?
Let's see if there's an article on Bleeding Cool. Probably not. They've been staying out of this kind of stuff. I've been staying out of this kind of stuff forever and a day.
But again,
the day may come when we rely on Bleeding Cool as a news source, but it is not this day.
Yeah. Well, I'm just curious because, again, as I say, if you're going to lob this accusation, you either better have audio, you better have video, you better name the date and the place and what the whole context was. Otherwise, I mean, it's inexcusable to throw this around.
Viva la evidence.
I'm pretty sure Bounding into Comics has something up by now, but not Bleeding Cool. Let's see. Oakland A's announcer Glenn Cooper said the N-word league instead. Oh, I heard that. And he didn't even know it. I heard that on the radio, and he just went, and everybody sailed right by it. I don't know if there was a meeting afterwards, which I think is the best way to handle it, to act like it didn't happen, then afterwards deal with it. Mm-hmm. But I heard that on the radio.
And especially being, in Oakland, California, he's done. He's not getting a second.
They said that he was suspended indefinitely. That's fine.
Yeah,
dude.
The angry mob should be approaching his house in 3, 2, 1.
Yeah. Okay, so like I said, I was gonna talk about this tomorrow, and then Wes made a video, and I said, and I saw the reaction to the video, so I was thinking, okay, let's talk about this now, Wes. You are now part of the story. In all honesty, I have not seen his video yet because I was going to talk about it on Friday. I didn't want to watch it, so because you want your own.
You don't want to contaminate your own perspective.
Yeah. But I mean, T. Franklin, however, did see it, and she's like, so this whole thread starts off, and she's like, and then she says, there's rapists, sexual abusers, groomers all up in comics, but me, I'm the worst person in comics. You would think not, but here we are. So honestly, you're in the freaking running. So maybe perhaps there is something you need to alter. You might need to change a little bit of. And I don't know, does he at all talk about her writing?
So I mean, what's funny is that your boy Zach, I think, had a video up before Wes. But
yeah, I was trying to find that thread so I could talk about it because he has certainly talked about T. Franklin a ton more than Wes had. But I think kind of what really knocked this out of the park was just kind of the fury and venom that Wes had. Yeah, Wes did put the exclamation in the title. I was saying because he's got it. It's like the most horrible person in all of comics, and then he's got a question mark. So it's like the most horrible person in all of comics. Maybe? No, well, stand up for yourself, dude.
That category used to be a lot easier to determine, but now there are so many awful people in the industry that it's like, well, maybe.
That's one of the things I wanted to talk about. Look, she's bringing up Mark Waid. Mark Waid is no good shit, no fair shakes. I mean, he went after Richard when Richard was trying to start his freaking comic, telling who was it? Don't have
Antarctic Press.
Antarctic Press because he's part of Comicsgate. What does that make him? Ooh, just the fact that you went after a whole bunch of readers who didn't like the direction of comics. You called them racist, and to the point where you won't even let somebody have their comic book published. That is a dickish move, and that's some
Red Scare from the other end sort of crap.
One thing I'm sure that Mark Waid has deleted. I don't know if he's on Twitter anymore. I'm blocked by goddamn everybody. But Mark Waid wrote like a 40 tweet message talking about how he's going to stand up for the black man because they can't stand up for themselves. And when people like myself pointed out, dude, what the are you talking about? Why are you are literally trying to be the white knight to black people. You are so condescending, and this is fucking racist. This entire thread, because it was all about how black people have been put upon for all their time, and they, you know, they need somebody to stand up and, by God, I am Mark Wade. And
Heaven forfend you let people speak for themselves.
Yeah. Well, I mean, once again, just go back to that hilarious, humorous video. I can't remember if it was through Babylon Bee or if it was a different humorist, you know, that did the video basically comparing progressives to you know, white supremacists, and you know,
I'm a white supremacist. I'm a wokester or something like that.
I want to segregate schools. Me too.
Me too. Yeah.
Just the whole thing. I mean, you know, it's, you know, the horseshoe theory here.
The more things change, the more they say the frickin' same.
Yeah. Let me get some comments. This is definitely something where everybody's going to have something to say here. Undead says, time to sing "Bring the Noise" by Busta Rhymes. Never kind of cared for Busta Rhymes, but I mean, you know, he did that one Weird Al song.
Yeah.
The Niger River is pronounced Niger, just saying.
Yeah.
Let's see. Geek Hero, Bleeding Cool has 4 articles about her, but none regarding her versus Mark Wade. That you would think everybody would be talking about it, especially considering damn near every comic book news site is leftist. Glinzer's, that's cartoons and comics. I worked. Excuse me, I just took some Dr. Pepper and now I'm got the burps. I worked with a woke person, and she was a executive child and was unprofessional, fragile person, and bankrupt. She bankrupted the magazine. We were in it. Never apologize. I agree with that. Never say you're sorry. And look, if you actually did something by accident, you didn't mean to, you hurt somebody, so I get it. But if they go, well, you said that thing, I'm like that whole bit about, if you know, you're a freaking adult, get over the one word in the world that's going to make you punch someone in the face.
An apology is blood in the water to a shark around these people. Is.
Franklin or Vita Ayala are spiteful people. I've not seen this from Vita Ayala. To give her credit, I think she's a horrible writer, but I've never seen this kind of personal
vitriol.
Well,
yeah,
I mean,
vitriol.
Vita's kind of, you know, had her moments, and you know, she has certainly made some interesting comments. But yeah, never as insane and unhinged as T. Franklin, and certainly, I mean, compared to T. Franklin, Vita seems normal and sane.
Yeah, I don't have it, like everything I've seen. Look, Vita Ayala, obviously, she came right out and said that she's got a queer agenda. You know, she's straightforward with it. She's literally said that she's going to queer up wherever she can.
Does this agenda ever involve writing good gay characters that gay people can actually gravitate towards?
No,
it would be nice, but unfortunately, as I was talking to somebody before, it was the big difference. The big difference between, say, you have a straight relationship and then you have the gay relationship. The gay relationship written by gay people is only about being gay. Superman and Lois, we all know they're in love. We all know they're married. Usually when they're talking and when they're doing things, they might say, "Oh, I love you, honey." But it's really about the plot. It's really about the story that they're talking about. If you read a book, Tim Drake Robin, if you read that book, it stopped being a superhero book the moment it started, because it's all about, oh, I got a boyfriend now, even though 30 years. It's a horrible book. Can
you guys not be romantic while kicking ass?
Well, no, by all means, be so. We've seen that but you.
Like, you can flirt as you're kicking ninja butt is the thing. Like,
the relationship is a supporting character in the comic, not the main reason. Unfortunately, they make it the main reason, and it's like, you know what? Okay, bye. I'm done. Let me see.
Well, if you want to see a really great portrayal of, you know, other sex person, check out this week's Marvel Love Infinity comic book. final chapter of
You check it out. No,
the Gwenpool is asexual. This last issue literally read like it was a PSA. I fully expect at some point within the next year that Marvel will actually publish a print edition to give out to all the lunatic school counselors out there.
This is why I make a distinction between LGBT and gay, because I may be gay or bisexual, but I am sure as crap not part of the LGBT framework. Not at all.
It's kind of like liberal and leftist. You got to separate them now. It's yeah.
It is important for accuracy's sake that you can have gay characters who aren't gayness personified.
Now, I haven't seen any stories. MK is asking about them killing Mary Jane. Like, what are the rumors out there? I haven't heard anything definitive.
Yeah, I mean, it's the rumor, and it feels like we're being set up for that.
Well, here's the thing. One, if they kill her, they can always bring her back, and they will somehow. They did that with Aunt May 15 or 20 times. But here's also the thing. That would be the best way for, or at least they would see that as the best way to shut people up about that. Please bring Peter and Mary Jane back together. I can't believe it's been, 15 years, 20 years now?
2007.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's been 15 years there, and it's they just don't listen to the fans. Let Peter grow up. We want to see this next version. They're not allowing him to grow up. They're not allowing him to have the relationship everybody wants him to have, and they're doing it with such glee that it's definitely purposeful. They are keeping these two, and what's worse is then you'll have a Nick Spencer come in and tease that they're getting back together, and people are like, really? And they gravitate towards the title, only to have that rug pulled out of them. So we talked about T. Franklin. We talked about Mark Waid. I'm willing to put all of Marvel Comics on that worst list. At least the who's the head honcho there now? Is it?
Well, I mean, allegedly, I mean, the editor-in-chief in name is C.B. Cebulski, but
okay, so we're talking about
basically,
Grace, right?
Well, I mean, he was basically neutered as soon as he was hired
from minute one. Yeah,
the whole Alyssa Wong, accusing him of being, what was it, writing under the Japanese pen name.
Yeah,
and then therefore saying, well, that meant that he was trying to be Japanese and blah,
appropriating.
And of course,
that's a name that slithered off into the ether. But yeah, C.B. Cebulski would have to be in the worst category, or at least in the running for allowing readers to be teased, but to honestly have the opinion that these two people would never be together, no matter how much readers want it.
Yeah. Well, have you perused issue 25 yet?
I'm going to. I don't want to.
Oh, then I don't want to spoil it for you.
Don't spoil anything.
In terms of how how they tricked us from issue 24. So all the things we thought about Mary Jane may or may not be wrong.
Geek Hero saying they made the art for Tim Drake. That's Riley Rosmo. He is horribly bad. They made him as small and slender as Stephanie. Oh yeah, that's right. They don't even draw him like he can throw a punch. Man of Action says, I don't care about that stuff. Marvel is dumb. They fell so hard that they have no reason to call themselves a comic company anymore. I will say there are a few things. They know how to press the buttons, and all of the books that are good are written by older writers, the older comic book creators, and they're kind of continuations of the 90s books.
Yeah. Well, and meanwhile,
there are actually good books out there. It's just that the good ones, they're the continuations. The modern ones, the new ones that are written by the V.D. Ayelas and the T. Franklins, they're horrible. They're not good. And if you have a back issue, you have visual evidence of why these books suck compared to what has come before.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned Riley Rosmo. It was kind of like, Robert Vendetti's going to write a Sandman mystery theater. Oh, that's going to be good. Oh, art by Riley Rosmo. Wah, wah.
It could it kick me off of a Venditti book? That's a huge question right there. Oh man. But there you go. Let's see what else we've got. No joke. After Gwenpool news, someone dumped all of the Gwenpool trades due to the news. I don't see why it was pertinent. I guess I have to read it. Maybe there's something where I'll read it and all of a sudden that light from the Blues Brothers in the church will shine on me and I'll go, I see it. And I'll go, this was so essential to the Gwenpool character.
Yeah, well, it's, Gwen is aces now. So,
Yeah, I liked Gwen before, so this should make me like her better. That's what we're going after, right?
It'll really make you love how Julie Power's grown up too. So
it's funny how even though the character is canonically, according to the current canon, asexual, they still manage to make a story about her non-sexuality rather than just having her be a superhero character who doesn't freaking talk about sex because she's asexual. That would make sense.
The Authority. Is there another good character that's written well? Another gay character that's written as well as the Authority?
The thing is, you've got to go back quite a while for that. I mean,
yeah, that's true. But
Hopefully and Wiccan, fortunately, don't get modernized very often.
They don't get used enough. I'm pretty sure that's going to change if they get their movie/TV show. But what are the good gay characters or good gay comics? But comic books with a gay lead.
Harley and Ivy, of course.
The original Hellblazer had John hooking up with Nick Necro, I believe. So there's that.
The original Hellblazer run.
Yeah.
Yeah, not modern. 2000 from 2013 up. I don't count that as original.
Yeah, no. That's how far and how deep you have to dig in order to.
Okay. All right. There you go. I guess. Yeah, John Constantine, huh? That's two, and they're both on DC, and they're both is there a good one from 2013 until now? Well, when the woke generation came about.
Not that I've seen. No.
I believe you have already forgotten, E. I can't believe you've already forgotten. How often do we talk about the national treasure?
I hate you, okay?
There will never be an unkind word spoken.
I heard the Midnighter one was mid.
Yeah.
That's the only one I could think of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so you know what I wanted to do
it wasn't bad. It was nothing to write home about.
Before we talk about the genius that is Gabby Rivera, I do want to go through this. So once again, I first saw the diversity in comics video. I was going to make a video of my own, and then we saw this. Let me go through these because I do. I'm sorry, but T. Franklin is losing her freaking mind. Or maybe she's just showing us who she is.
Yeah, mask off.
So here we go. Let me. This is you see her. She's reacting to Wes's video here. She mentions there's rapists, sexual abusers, groomers, all up in comics. But there. How about just groomers in comics? You are a freaking writer, okay? I'm the worst person in comics. Now you should have. That I guess put a question mark, but there you go. You want to, yeah, okay. Apparently, let's harass and bully T. Franklin Day. No. When you start off and you go off on people and people respond to us, it's not a harassment.
Thou shalt play stupid games and win stupid prizes, my dear.
Multiple videos about all about me. Did Wes do more than one? I live rent-free in your heads. You can only make money talking about me since no one will hire you to write comics. I guess make your money somehow, huh? Now, there's a couple of things wrong here. If you have a comic book channel where on YouTube, or if you write a column or something, and one of the writers goes off and kind of looks like she's losing her freaking mind, that is news. I'm sorry, but you going off on people left and right, you saying that Mark Wade said the N-word in front of you, blah blah blah, with all people around, and apparently no video evidence in the world of cell phone cameras. You saying this is news. Therefore, we talk about it.
And more to the point, on the topic of who lives in whose head rent free, my dear, you are beginning to write your next 100,000 words on this topic because it apparently bothered you so much that they were making videos about you. So who exactly lives in whose head rent free? Darling?
Then she goes on to say, and that disabled soul, Ricky, y'all know who that is, made videos about me regarding Demon Slayer. I have no idea who she's talking about. Demon Slayer, would that be the comic book character, or is there a TV show?
Oh, so who wants to educate?
Don't educate me. It's not, obviously it's not the comic book.
I'm just going to say who wants to educate you on the most popular if it's not the most popular, one of the most popular anime in the entire world.
Yeah, I was just about to say, how are you this much of an ostrich? And then I remembered who I was talking to.
Instead of, okay, let me keep going, guys.
Well, no, but just
maybe instead of bitching about you, go practice your writing, and maybe someone will go higher. Why do you think that Wes is trying to be a comic book writer? Did he say this in the video? Was it like, hi, I'm a comic book writer, and I'm really jealous about this woman who seems like she's a shithead?
Yeah, so England team, where this came from, and I don't know if Wes addressed it in his video, but Zach had it in one of his previous videos.
Okay.
This started where T put out a tweet saying, basically saying, hey, whoever knows, who owns Demon Slayer, I would love to write for them.
Okay,
so
that's not bad.
She was trying to angle to be able to write a Demon Slayer book, and of course put a disabled, queer character.
Put herself.
And that's when people savaged her, and that's of course then.
Okay, so yeah, that was the thread I was looking for. That was but apparently I can't find it anymore. Okay, so let's see. Y'all FWADs are really going to be pissed when I'm writing on your favorite TV show. Probably so, because you're going to ruin it.
Yeah, sweetheart. It doesn't matter if people will hire us if we can just make our own thing. Some of us don't dance to the tune of some mega corporation. Just throwing that out there. As much as I don't like the let's replace the big two arguments, there is that option of, what does it matter if they won't hire me if I can make my own stuff that's more successful than their stuff often?
Geek Hero saying she was the diversity hire. Man of Action says, take that nutter's phone away. Undead Quinn, T. Franklin is a drama hound. She wasn't hired to write comics just to check off a box, or a couple of them, actually. The person is a cry victim. Ricky Jarvis. Okay. I have, anime with a controversial scene, says Joe. Hellsing is the best anime, not Demon Slayer. We're gonna get that going in our chat. You know what? Thank you guys, because now
you mispronounced Death Note, but whatever.
Yeah, if that happens, this video will get traction, because if you start arguing over what's the best anime, that is going to be, I'm going to have like 15,000 comments on this short video.
And again, I'll clarify, current most popular, I didn't say the best anime, because, there's a whole truckload, and it starts with Black Lagoon and then kind of, spirals out depending on what genre you like. But
Death Note, manga, Overlord, DBZ, just those guys. JoJo's. Don't forget JoJo's.
Guys, I do have to put this out there. You're adults. If you need me to tell you not to go and harass people, you seriously need therapy already. You're adults. You know not to.
100%. Do not contact this person. Do not do anything. If you see this person,
it does nothing but make her case for her if you do.
Okay, so by the way, she continues, and once again, I need to be arrested because people, I don't like how I talk beef. No, I would never say that. I don't think that anybody should be canceled for what they say. I don't think anybody needs to be dropped or flagged. Everybody with their hands over that flag button right now. Those ignorant people in the war campaign who flagged my channel.
But we
All right,
reserve the
so-
right to argue back if you say stupid things.
Yeah, if you say stupid things. If you put, look, and here it is. If you put yourself out there in public, you're going to have somebody who disagrees with you, and you might have somebody who's going to take what you say and make a video out of it, or make a Twitter thread, or make a comic book. In Doug Ernst, we were talking to him the other day, and he brought up the fact that well, he didn't bring it up. I asked him about being a villain in a Max Bemis comic, and we'll talk about Max Bemis in just a little bit. Remember, this isn't Pylon T. Franklin. This is she actually the worst person in comics? I'm not challenging her. I'm challenging Wes.
Yeah. Well,
because Wes had a freaking exclamation point in his title and a question mark on his thumbnail. She either is or she isn't. And
let's not forget
you made a declaration, then you made it a question. So is it a question? Is it a declaration? We're going to find that out right now. And by the way, this is the friendly. I'm not like, Wes.
Well, I just wanted to point out quickly too. She then falls into one of the usual things that all of these progressive warriors do. If you look at her tweet thereafter.
Well, if you let me get there.
Well, after George does again the classic, "Oh, I'm so sorry for you."
By the way,
they always go to, "I'm tired of this. It's so tiring."
Okay, yeah, let me get there because I was actually reading in order. What you're talking about is the tweet where this gentleman who has pronouns in his bio. Do you respect that? I mean, I you know what? I know most of my audience is conservative. No, you don't. I don't. I definitely don't. But then again, I don't respect you picking your own pronouns. You're a man, you're a woman, you're a he, you're a she. It's simple as that. If you have pronouns beyond that, and if you are a woman and you're saying, well, I just no, you're pretentious. Just put pretentious in your freaking bio. We'll get it. All righty. But anyway, Jorge, I guess that's what I read it as. I'm so sorry you're getting this hate, T. Your work is inspiring to me, and seeing you on the TL always brightens my day. What TL?
Timeline.
Okay.
Yeah.
Once again, I'm horrible with abbreviations.
Yeah.
And
he doesn't speak millennial, folks.
It's not why I'm here. Then why are you constantly bringing up drama there, Mrs. Franklin? Or is it Ms.? This guy, Jeff Howard, says, now you know you're doing something right. And a lot of people say this about, like, if somebody was coming after me, which I did have that, you must be doing something right if you got all these people pissed off. So, okay, yeah, that's not bad. In that case, I've been doing shit right for years. You know what? There does come a time where you got to think, if this many people think you're stupid, you may want to look into it. And then
as the old saying goes, if everyone you meet in a given day is the asshole, maybe you are the asshole.
Now we get to the racism. Okay. Orchard Stands with WGA says, a white man telling people who is and isn't racist. Boy, isn't the world we live in just so normal and fine. You know what? Yeah, it doesn't matter if you're fucking racist, you're a racist. It doesn't matter what color you are. This whole new thing about the white, like, oh, you can't be racist no matter what you do or say to a white guy. No bullshit.
Power plus privilege. Yeah.
Except for that's it. Okay. For you people dumb enough to buy into this, racism is this plus power. Okay, say you have a Black Lives Matter Antifa member, and then you have a Ku Klux Klan member. One's black, one's white, and they're on a plane, and they start in America. That Ku Klux Klan member is incredibly freaking racist. I will say it. You'll probably say it, but I think the Black Lives Matter guy is racist too. That's our difference. Now, they are on an airplane, so they take a flight and they land in Africa. So now according to you, the member of the Ku Klux Klan is no longer racist because
their rationale in that case would be Africa has less infrastructure than the Western countries.
Well,
therefore,
that would be. Hold on, I want you to stop. And I want you to back it up to the point where you did not talk and just listen, because it doesn't matter what their fucking rationale is. That is their logical conclusion. That is what it leads to. Okay, let's stay in America. Let's stay in America and let's be on that same plane, except for it starts in San Francisco. And then we go to Oakland or in a car where if or what? No, Beverly Hills, and you're a black person in Beverly Hills. People are looking. People are going, okay, what's going on? Okay, because you're assuming racist and racism, and then you drive to Oakland, where if that white guy gets out of the fucking car, he's going to get beat down. Does that mean in Beverly Hills the white guy's racist, but in Oakland the black guy is?
No, it once again their argument would be the black guy is only angry because he's disadvantaged, therefore it's still
that is the
white
logical
people's fault.
conclusion. No matter what bullshit they pull out of their pocket, that is the logical conclusion to that argument. That your degree of racism doesn't matter on how you feel or how you think, but your freaking location. It's ridiculous. It's a dumb way to be about it. I'm sorry. Racism is treating somebody differently or looking down upon somebody because of their race. The way it has been all the way up to about 5 minutes ago when Twitter decided it was going to be the arbiter of all things and too many people decided to agree with it. It's ridiculously stupid. So I'm sorry, but yeah, it's horrible. If you see somebody being racist, okay. Yeah. Oh, and by the way, just the use of white right there is racist. Okay. So this person, Cheryl saying, what WTF, you always know racist when they call a black woman, like why? For what if the black woman is being racist? Cheryl, not only are you a racist, but you're a dumbass.
Are people capable of having independent thoughts, or aren't they? Or does it actually depend on race? Is that where the argument's going?
Yeah, this reminds me of something I brought up with Obama. Anytime you would say you didn't like something he was doing, they would call you a racist. I'm like, are you? Which I see as racist in itself, because you are saying that as a black man, Obama cannot be met on the
He's not an individual with his own individual thoughts. He's blackness and only blackness.
He cannot be met on the battlefield of ideas. He can only be met in terms of race. If you only see Obama in terms of race and not policy or ideas, then you yourself are being at least bigoted. SJWs don't even like themselves as men of action. Let's see, a lot of them are in anti-what cult and they don't see the hate. It's ridiculous. I was there in the days where racism was just part of your day. These people are grifting for it. Now, trust me, 95% of these people wouldn't have made it through a week. I've said this before. We beat it. We beat racism. You guys brought it back. It's that Twitter brought it back. If you said something bad, you were ostracized. You were removed from the sandbox. You can't play well with others. You have to go now. We were there. We were there where everybody was in agreement that saying things about somebody, doing things to somebody because of their immutable, what am I trying to say here? Immutable characteristics. That was absolutely the wrong thing to do. Now you're saying, you know what? It's okay to do to those people. What the does that sound like?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, what the hell does that sound? That sounds exactly like people treated black people in the 40s and 50s, and you're okay with it. Why? You're fucking racist.
They just want to invert the hierarchy. That's all.
Well, here's the thing too. I mean, Man of Action is right in this respect again, and all you have to do is look at her profile there in the top right corner. She's got 3 Twitter addresses for reps. And, so this is as much, I think, character acting as anything else, because it's getting her work. And I guarantee you that right now she would be welcomed with open arms and invited on panels at just about any comic convention in the U.S.
Just based on.
That is the sad, the sad state of affairs in the current comic book industry. But if you went back, there was one tweet on there that just made me laugh out loud at the end, where it was somebody said something about the comic book industry, and she said, "Yeah, I'm getting paid pennies for it too." And I'm like,
everyone does.
do you understand why you are? Or, it's, or if you feel that way, then get out and go do something more lucrative.
Well, it's the what was that? It's crazy to do the same thing over and over again, expecting different results.
Yeah.
Benjamin Franklin's definition of insanity.
Work is worth pennies, you get pennies.
Well, here's the thing. They've been writing these books, and we've been talking about this for 7 years now. Obviously, I've taken a break. There have been people who've been hammering it. Not so much on the comics. They moved to movies and everything. But we've been talking about the same thing for 7 years now. We were called racist when we said, look, we don't like the identity politics in the books. If you want to make a gay character, make a gay character. But make a gay character. Don't make a character gay if they're not. That's the big difference. That's where we're like, wait a second. Now you're messing with canon. You from times when you're not a part of this. Mark Waid, of all people, we talked about how bad he was just a little bit ago. Mark Waid, of all people, or was it John Byrne? I get these two mixed up as far as so maybe.
How dare you?
Said that you have to first do no harm. When you are writing a character, your first do no harm. What you change, what it's in, that goes to Stan Lee's illusion of change. You have to make sure that you are keeping to the core of the character. This has been thrown out the window in the last.
That was Byrne. That definitely wasn't Waid. That was
John Byrne. But the thing is they're not following this. Writers and artists like T. Franklin, like the VDILs of the world, they aren't following this. They don't care. They don't care to write a story about Spider-Man. She doesn't want to write a story about Spider-Man. She wants to write a story about T. Franklin as Spider-Man. She wants the same with Vita Ayala. Vita Ayala doesn't want to write a Marvel character. She wants to write Vita Ayala as the Marvel character. Go on ahead, Dalton.
I mean, Nick Spencer turned Cap into a Nazi, and then Ta-Nehisi Coates later turned the Red Skull into Jordan Peterson.
Yeah.
Well, you know that T. Franklin did write a Spider-Man story, or at least a Spider-Verse story. Yeah,
with a person in a wheelchair.
Yeah,
she wanted to write herself as Spider-Man. Look, I get it, because my ideas for comics do not include fantastical things. It's mostly the stuff I want to write about is, in all honesty, biographical. I've lived my life like a Lucy skit, and I want to get that out there because I've had some of the weirdest and most fun things. And I think a lot of people, if you've gone out of your house more than a couple of times, you've probably got an adventure in there. And maybe it's just because you can. Yeah. I'm somebody who could sit in front of people and talk and tell a story that makes me think that every life is a story. But yeah, that's how I see things. But
that's something I brought up on a recent live stream. Self-insert characters aren't bad by definition. It just happens to be that you have to A, understand the self that you are inserting, and B, be interesting enough that you actually can sustain a character. That's the biggest problem. Not the fact that they're doing self-inserts, but that they're inserting a self that honestly doesn't have that much going for it.
Okay, well, the whole thing here is T. Franklin actually the worst person in comics? Now, granted, she's not a good person. You could see that. She uses her skin color, and she uses the fact that she's in a wheelchair to be a bitch to a lot of people, and that's bad. But is she actually the worst? I mean, Max Bemis told everybody to eat his ass, and then put Doug Ernst in the comic books as a villain because Doug Ernst said something that he didn't like.
Ta-Nehisi Coates made Red Skull Jordan Peterson.
Doesn't agree with Jordan Peterson, so Jordan Peterson gets to be one of the worst villains in comic book history. We have that kind of thing, but I'm going to tell you something. I'm thinking about it, and I'm thinking about who is the worst. Who is the worst person in comics? Wasn't there a guy who was grooming a girl, and he was the writer of that Borderline, whatever it was called?
Border Town, yeah.
Border Town.
Stina Grace?
No. Not start throwing names around.
Stina Grace wouldn't be grooming girls.
Yeah.
I forget the name, but yeah. Well, and the thing is, I mean, he's not in comic books anymore. I mean,
Not anymore. They kicked
yeah,
him out. So maybe,
yeah,
yeah.
I mean,
So she's still here.
I mean, again,
Okay.
depending on how you kind of define, the worst person, I'd argue that the editors that have hired and promoted and given people like T. Franklin work are the worst people in comics, because they're the ones that have created this situation. And I think it was T. Franklin in one of her tweets that was giving thanks to Katie Kubert, and I'm sorry, she may be part of the the Kubert family legacy, but as an editor at DC Comics, she has presided over some of the worst ideas and worst storylines, and bringing in some of the worst people to write comics.
Well, I will say this: I have not met a Kubert who could not draw. I mean, they literally have a father who made an art school. So yeah, I've never met. I'm not going to take away from their artistic talents. If they're not a good editor, we've seen that before. Some writers and some artists can jump into the editor's chair and be awesome at it. Lynn Wine was a boss. You have that. Jim Shooter, we consider him to be one of the greatest editors, probably the greatest editor Marvel has ever had. And I do include Stan Lee in that. But yeah, there is a problem if you're a weak editor. If you don't read and say this needs to be, if you can't say no, don't be an editor. If you can't look at something and go, you know what, I know what you're trying to go for, but we can't have that in this. It's going to alienate a lot of fans. We want, even Republicans buy shoes, supposedly Michael Jordan once said. And that's the whole thing. You're not making comics just for one little itty bitty audience. And if you are, you're doing it wrong. That whole "this comic book isn't for you" is the worst saying to ever gain traction.
Yeah, because people will go, okay, and then leave.
All comics should be for all people. Oh, but what about kid comics? You know what? Yes, even the freaking kid comics should work on a level where they might be aimed at kids, but adults can read them and have fun too. Look at the best kids movies out there. That's the way they become the best, is because they appeal to both.
Yeah.
Eric and I keep talking about Dell comics of the past and how, a lot of them were written for kids, but they're so much fun and they're so entertaining for adults as well. Go on ahead, LK. Sorry.
Well, I was just gonna say, I mean, there's a difference between something that, just, isn't for you because of a particular genre or, style, versus alienating you. And that's been the problem, is that, there's
deliberately fighting you.
Too many books that alienate portions of the audience, so it's perfectly fine to, have a book with, say a female protagonist that, is, written, with a female point of view, and, and the goal is to attract an audience of, 13 to, 24-year-old, girls and women. That's fine. But when you write it in such a way as to alienate anybody else who's not in that small box, that's where you have the problem.
Yeah. Let me get some of these. Let's see. Watch movies from 70s, watch TV shows, watch everyday people from back in the 70s and 80s. We actually used to bring up race all the time. I don't know if you remember this, if you're LK, but we would talk about it all the time. Nobody cared. Look, black people and white people, they have their differences. Okay, we used to joke about it. And the similarities. The slur honky, they have a problem. No, they don't. Yeah, it's okay to be racist to white people in front of, according to them. You cannot get rid of racism of the past unless you bring up racism of the present. And the only way to get rid of the racism of the present is to have it in the future. No, racism is racism, and it's bad. It's horrible. Stop. Just stop. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, again, you're talking about, especially like on the sitcoms of the 70s and early 80s, especially like the Norman, Mailer, ones, there would be a conflict and, white and black or whatever, but, then they would talk it out, recognize that, we have differences, but we've got similarities. And,
for all of the bickering
up in a sitcom, they would, come together at the end.
For all of the bickering, George Jefferson and Archie Bunker two of the biggest racists on TV that were not bad guys were friends.
Yeah, and respected each other.
Yep. And both of them, by the way, were racist. Okay. RG Bunker gets the blunt of that, the brunt. What? Okay, yeah, but it's George Jefferson just as racist. And by the way, both funny as those were great TV shows. Let's see. What about whoever wrote the book Black, or was it White? It was both.
Kwanzaa.
Yeah,
they were sequels to each other.
That's a name I've not heard in like
for those of you who don't know. Black is this is the premise of Black, and I was going to do a video of it until I saw just some guy. It was perfection. I felt like what was his name, Salieri from Amadeus.
Yes, Salieri. The also random Mozart.
I did the whole thing. I got all the pictures. I'm going to tear into this book. Holy shit! You can't believe this dumbass book. And as then I see. Okay, here's some dude, just some guy. Okay, let me see what he has to say. And it was perfection. I mean, it was so amazing. The premise of Black is that you have black. The only people on the planet with superpowers are black, and yet they went through the same timeline. So white people armed with muskets took on the X-Men and enslaved them. So that's how weak Kwanzaa sees black people.
Well, and wasn't one of the evil antagonists named Man?
Yeah, by the way,
it's worse than that.
Basically, it was the unfunny version of Undercover Brother.
Yeah, Undercover Brother has that. It's the Man. I love. By the way, if you haven't seen Undercover Brother, search that shit out. It is funny as hell.
Did you know
it gets worse than that? There's a component to Black where there's a sect of superpowered black people, because they're the only ones that have superpowers, remember, who hunt down other superpowered black people for the white government, and their acronym is HOUSE, because subtlety is just not a thing anymore.
Kwanzaa.
It's been nuked from orbit.
Well, I was gonna say, did you know there was a sequel to Undercover Brother?
I did not.
I saw it come across one of the cable channels the other night. I was like, wait a minute, Undercover Brother.
Is it any good? That's the whole thing.
It was too late at night when it came on. I started kind of watching it and fell asleep, so I can't tell you for certain.
I've never heard of it, so I'm not gonna go rushing out to find it, because if it was any good, I probably would have. Joe is saying there's a difference between a self-insert and your experiences, inspired stories, and characters, says Joe. Let's see. You mean the groomer, Eric M. Esquivel? Yeah. Okay, so obviously he, in my opinion, is, for as bad as I've seen T. Franklin act, Eric M. Esquivel wins. Except, is he the guy that sent a picture of his butthole to EVS? Because I want to pick that guy.
No, that was somebody else, and I forget.
That was some Rodriguez.
Yeah, I want to pick him as the worst. I mean, think about all the stuff that he had to do to make sure that butthole pic was well lit in order to send it to freaking EVS. And I'm sorry, look, you say something stupid, you say something bad, you even write a freaking weird lesbian sex scene in a Harley Quinn comic, you go off on Twitter, that's bad enough. That's bad enough. But to get onto a high horse and say Ethan Van Sciver's an evil guy, and the only way you could think of to fight this evil is to send a fucking lit picture of your asshole, and then still think you're on the high horse.
Yeah, still think you're the sane one.
Then that to me is beyond anything.
That's a 10 on the mental gymnastics Olympic stage.
Yeah, I mean, how can that not be the worst? That is incredibly bad. Who was that? I don't want to even look the name up, because that fucking picture is going to be there with it. I don't just how.
I think it was Robbie Rodriguez.
Robbie Rodriguez. Like, look, you could even say
just search up who the co-creator. just Google search Gwen, Spider Gwen, whoever was the artist of Spider Gwen, that guy.
Okay.
Because
When
he went after Franco or Milo Manera for drawing her in a in their style, and they had a problem with that. So it's that guy.
Yeah.
was it Mark Waid or Dan Slott that at one point during the height of CG said, "If this guy shows up to my convention, come find me, and
That was Mark
I'll
Waid.
beat the crap out of him."
If
was
Diversity in
Waid.
Comics, if anybody saw Richard Meyer at a convention, and I talked to him about this, I said, okay, kids, I got blocked by Mark Waid. This is the conversation that got me blocked by Mark Waid. I said, Mark, you are instigating violence right now. And he's like, I am not. I'm just saying I want to. No, you said if anybody sees him, bring him over. What happens if Diversity in Comics? What happens if Richard does not want to go? How far are your followers willing to take it in order to make sure that he gets to you? You are instigating violence right now. You are saying somebody physically take him. You might not be saying that literally, but if somebody takes it that far, how many times have you and other comic book creators said, just because of things we say on this side of the thing, where or if our followers say something, we are responsible for that? He didn't like that, and I was blocked off of his face. He said that on Facebook, and I ended up getting blocked from his Facebook page. So that was the last I ever spoke to Mark Waid about. But yes, he instigated violence towards your boy Zach, as you guys like to call him. And that was a thing. There was actually T-shirts made that went, "My name is Richard Meyer," that a lot of people got so they could wear it around conventions to see if anybody would take Mark Waid up on his offer. So that's another point for Mark Waid being the worst person in comics. Let's see. I had somebody else in mind for worst person in comics, and then it just kind of dissipated.
Well, in that same vein, everyone remembers the "eat my ass" comment from Max Bemis, but there was another comment he made that's actually worse, which is, "It's a good thing I'm not strapped, or all these CG MFers would be in trouble," or something along those lines.
See, you brought up Gabby Rivera earlier, but in all honesty, Gabby Rivera's never done anything. She's never done that. I mean, of course,
except be bad at her job.
Yeah, but come on, she's Rocky Horror Picture Show bad. I will defend.
You just like her because she helped you build the channel.
This channel is the house that Gabby Rivera built. Yes, you know what? Because she is so bad, she's entertaining.
Gabby Rivera is the reason why we met. Because if America issue 8 didn't feature her fighting mindless ones that were controlled by freaking Arcade, we never would have met.
It just, my gosh. So yeah, I wouldn't put Gabby Rivera on this list.
Yeah, the issue here is the names we're putting out. Some of them are at least decent enough writers or artists that they have work, they get the work, and then they just bitch on the internet.
You know, Max Bemis, by the way. Oh, I'm sorry. Keep going.
Some are just bad, but they don't say anything offensive online.
Yeah.
Dee Franklin both has no talent, no skills, can't write for shit, and thinks highly of herself that she's an A-lister and does the stuff she did on Twitter.
You got a point there that that you can forgive certain things if they can back it up with talent. Mark Waid gets away with a lot. He's an actual good writer. John Byrne allegedly was a dick to everybody when he was at the height of his career in the 1980s. Never met him, heard all the stories. Max Bemis just recently wrote 2 of my favorite miniseries of the last 10 or so years in Ant-Man and the Wasp.
And his Moon Knight was pretty good.
His Moon Knight was good, and then it kind of went off the rails a little bit.
Yeah, but
it became more.
When they had a Nazi called Ernst.
Yeah. But at least there's talent there. At least you can go, you know what? That is pretty good. That's pretty good.
But you're awful and you have no talent is another vector entirely.
So I guess the question is, who do you think the worst person in comic books are? Like, if you're reading, you're looking, is it because of what's on the page? Is it because of what's off the page? Like Black Cat said, is it because the person's throwing everything at everybody and yet doesn't have the talent to back it up? Who do you think the worst person in comics is?
I have a suggestion.
Oh, okay.
Because most people probably don't remember this, but Joe Glass, he of Bleeding Cool, wrote a comic called Pride. And I, as a gay man, have never been so insulted in all of my livelong days.
Yeah. Well, so Dalton, have you seen any of the recent news or some of his recent tweets in terms of the desperation that he has been going through?
What has he done now?
Well, so I mean, he is so desperate to write a comic book for anybody. And then there was also the series of tweets where he talked about how I think was it Kickstarter that had a new like position, you know, I want to say comic book czar or something along those lines, you know, coordinator or something, and he was campaigning to try and get that role. And then at the same time was also, hey, I'm feeling a little down on my luck, so you know, if and I need to get a new laptop or something, you know, so if you could, you know, donate a couple bucks to me, I'd really appreciate it. I mean, he's, you know, I mean, it's one of those classic things of you gotta hit rock bottom here before you finally realize and actually turn your act around.
Yeah, I choose him to the top of the list, though, not only because he wrote one of the most grossly offensive things I've ever read in my life, but also because if you throw in all the things he's done as a Bleeding Cool contributor, all the hit piece articles, all the cultural vandalism, all that stuff, I think it starts to add up.
You know, actually, bringing up Bleeding Cool, what's his name? Rich Johnson. Johnson or Johnston, one of them. Okay.
Johnston, I think.
For all of the times I've had disagreements with him, I have only had disagreements with him. For as dumb as I may think some of his ideas are, he's never gone beyond the argument. And I've always appreciated that. I got to give credit where credit is due. Yeah. I've never seen him attack the person rather than the idea. He may have, but he's never done it. Back in the day, I used to have more conversation with him.
No.
When the hit pieces were flying.
Yeah. Well, I was just going to say, you know, be careful, because if you say his name 5 times, he'll show up.
Yeah. That's okay. This channel needs the mentions.
He claimed 80s Vertigo was a bunch of SJWs, and I lost all ability to ever respect him ever again.
Dude, if you read Sandman today, if Sandman were created today, a lot of people would say it's woke as fuck. That is something. By the way, which is also to show how ignorant USJW woke people are. We were reading this shit and loving it 30, 40 years ago. We were loving it. You guys had to turn it into a thing where if you don't like the book because of the bad writing, if it has that kind of stuff in it, it's all about that, and you're some sort of istan phobe. Let me get
and they also don't know their own history very well. They can't tell the difference between the libertarian punk movement left of the 90s and
can I throw out an alternate name here, and one that's going to be out of left field?
Sure.
Jim Lee.
Keep that thought. Let me read the chat. This seems like it's going to be a conversation. Okay, so let's see. Let's see. Art Class Clowns. Wait, who was the guy who was nasty? That Jimmy guy. I don't. Oh, Dan Slott. Oh, Dan Slott's another guy who has his place because he's done some stuff we're going to be talking about in just a little bit. Just thank you for bringing that up. Jimmy, by the way, Dan Slott also called me a racist without ever talking to me in that conversation with Jimmy Quirks. Let's see. Undead Quinn says Robbie Butthole. You know what? Let's just change his name to that. Why not? Mark Wade, because he used to have talent and he knows better, which brings up the when now everybody's talking about how women were kept out of comics, and even the likes of Mark Wade and Ron Lim are saying, yeah, you guys were around 30 years ago. Why didn't you say anything or do anything then? That makes
also Karen Berger. All I'm saying.
that makes both of them bad people just for that. Oh, well, women were kept out of comics. You didn't say anything in any interview in Wizard ever about that kind of crap. If you were standing up for it, why stand it up for it 20 years later? Why not when you think it was happening? All right, so Glenzer says, wouldn't it be the editor-in-chief? Wouldn't he be the winner for worst person in comics for allowing the inmates to run the asylum? So he's a CB Cebulski backer. I still say Alex DeCampi. Okay, remind me.
She is done very little output, but as Undead Quinn says in a later chat, you know, she was part of the whole Whisper network.
That's right. There was the Whisper network.
Basically, you know, dragged, you know, Me Too to comics and was on that forefront, and, you know, definitely, you know, ruined some, you know, people's reputations.
All this stuff is coming back. It's like, holy shit. Yeah, that was something that happened. The dude who was Melissa Morg would have to be, but I think he was he was more of a YouTuber.
Yeah, but I mean, that's such a minor thing.
Also, on the topic of people who had talent and lost their freaking minds, I nominate Neil Gaiman because he not only does he allow Netflix to do whatever it is they wish to do, he's actually forgotten some of his own history in that he can't differentiate between the punk libertarian left of the 80s and 90s and the modern SJWs. Right. Because he keeps wokeifying everything he touches in Sandman, and I hate it.
Let's see. Rich Johnston will not choose a side between Wade and Franklin until a winner is decided. He's spineless, says Geek Hero. That could be. Let's see. With her Whisper Network and drama, talking about T. Frank, she destroyed comic creators' lives. They really went hard. Aubrey Sitterson, the person who said that Richard needed to die, the former writer of G.I. Joe. Jim Lee is a classic set. We're going to get to him. Jim Lee takes money not to do. Gaiman has too much money now, says Man of Action. Okay, Jim Lee. Yeah. First of all, Black Cat wanted to say something. Then we'll get to Jim.
Yeah, I was going to do Dalton's point about Gaiman contradicting himself. Gaiman is using the old adage of whoever pays my paycheck is always right, and is doing whatever the people who pays him to reiterate.
The original Sandman was a comic so good it saved my life from an attempted suicide. Let's not excuse him just because he's making the money.
He doesn't care. He just wants the money.
The only thing I know about Jim Lee, of course, he's part of the New 52 thing, but I think that's more Dan Didio. If you go back and you read articles about Image and the whole reason why DC now owns Wildstorm, is because Jim Lee found out he was not a businessman. He's an artist, and he liked being an artist. He had to be controlled to get into Image in the first place. He was he was the big dog that they wanted to lend credence, but he was one of the last ones to sign up because he's an artist. He's happy at Marvel and DC. So I don't think a lot of the business decisions were made by Jim Lee. I just don't. So the New 52, as much as bad as it was, I don't think he stood up, but I also don't hold him fully accountable. And there's somebody mentioned that he's taking money to do nothing. I can buy it. I can believe that. I mean,
yeah. Well, I mean, this goes back to, and the reason why I nominated him as the worst person in comics right now is because, let's see, what his prior role before he just got his promotion, I believe, was something along the lines of creative director or what have you. The bottom line is he was in an executive position at DC Comics. If he had actually used the authority that he had, you know, he could have actually affected change. Instead, you know, supposedly, you know, I guess he was either supportive or, you know, was the one that recommended Daniel Cherry to be hired as, you know, CEO or top exec at DC Comics, and we see how that turned out. You know, and then of course, I mean, look at all the hires and what DC has turned into while he has been an executive there. And of course, now he's been rewarded, and I'll do that air quotes, you know, named as president of, you know, DC Comics. But I will throw this out. What was interesting is if you listen to the last week's Warner Brothers, you know, quarterly earnings call, When they talked about DC, it was only talking about the films. There was, Jim Lee's name never came up. They never talked about the comics. So that tells you basically where in the pecking order and, DC Comics is, and, David Zaslav's.
They view them as IP farms, basically, both Warner Brothers and Disney at this point.
Yeah, but I mean, just basically finish up. I mean, Jim Lee, could have stopped what has happened, and instead has just either, signed off on it, or has been just completely ineffectual. So there you go. That's why he's the worst person.
I take you want to talk about that comment.
Yeah, I completely agree, Man of Action. I completely agree. There's something to be said for starving artists, and if we've learned anything in recent years, some artists need to be kept starving so they stay good.
I never thought that Neil Gaiman was as great as his reputation anyway. I liked Sandman. I loved Sandman back in the day. I like it now. That reread, part of the reason why I stopped was I realized I'm bored.
Yeah. Well, I'm
bored with Sandman.
It's the ending. It's the ending that does it in for me. It's one of the greatest comics ever made, but it also has one of the worst endings ever made.
And talk about it like that, because I was supposed to do all of them. I was going to do all the books and everything, but I'm bored. I don't want to read the kindly ones. Yeah. I've got it right here. I can't sell it for shit.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you, because as
nobody cares about Sandman the Kindly Ones. This is the next book. I don't care. I don't want.
The ending is terrible. That's the problem. It's one of the greatest comics ever written, but it has one of the worst endings of any comic ever written, because Neil Gaiman put his own ego and not wanting to let DC keep the character around ahead of what actually made sense in universe.
What all the way up to the point where they find the brother, that's good. But after that, except for the one with the Arabian Nights storyline where they're and that's just a bunch of short stories.
Yeah, the Ramadan story. That's the last good one, pretty much.
One of the reasons why I absolutely freaking I don't like the kindly ones, I don't want to go through it again, is Mark Hempel. You know Mark Hempel? Mark Hempel is Riley Rossmo, 1990s. It's god awful.
The Chibi story. Oh god.
I looked at this and I'm like, no freaking wonder I can't sell it. This is, and you know what? I don't want to go through it again. I do not want to go through this again. My review of all of Sandman, you know what? I'm going to do it different. I'll do just one big thing and we'll go through. If you want to join me, we will talk about each book.
Discussion video, why not?
We're not going to be, we will not be long-winded about them, but just go story to story. Is it really good? But I got news for you. I can't get past the art in this shit. By the way, $5 at the auction. Okay, anybody? Yeah. All right.
It's the ending that ruined one of the greatest comic books ever made. I'm not buying it.
Yeah. Well,
Joe is saying I disagree. Jim Lee is pretty much a figurehead. They don't let him run anything. And there is rumor that they're kind of Chris Claremonting him at DC. Chris Claremont is paid. He's not given a lot of assignments, but he's paid so he doesn't go right for DC. A lot of people think that DC is doing the same thing to Jim Lee for Marvel. They don't want him to go back and write Marvel or draw Marvel, excuse me. Yeah. And so they pay him money so he could stick around.
That may be true, but the difference is with Claremont, Marvel never gave him a title.
That's true.
Or made it appear that he had some kind of executive position and executive authority.
All right.
I just want to real quickly. So, as somebody who didn't read Sandman at the time and only kind of got to know Gaiman through his more, what word am I searching for? Mainstream works. Like one of the first things I can remember, reading of his was 1602.
Loved it.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, between that and then, of course, the Stardust movie, I still absolutely love. So, so there are still, some good things that, he has done.
Mm-hmm. Sandman was his magnum opus, though, and he killed it himself. He literally killed it himself by killing off the character that we've been following for 75
in other
issues.
words, like a lot of anime, that's great, and then they crash and burn on the landing.
Yeah, Death Note was the same way. Everything after, spoilers for anyone that cares, L dies, I hate. Like everything leading up with the fight with L, great. As soon as L dies, I check out.
Okay, so there's another one that we haven't talked about, and I figure we're hitting the hour and a half mark where we usually stop for the night, but there's one more name that needs to be nominated, and that is Dan Slott. We talked about him a little bit. We talked about him briefly. He didn't send a butthole picture. I don't think he could reach, but he did at one point he faked being some real person in order to sting operate some other guy. It was he goes off on anybody who doesn't agree with him, not just about politics either. It's just any disagreement. There's an entire freaking documentary about Marvel on Disney Plus where they steamroll Dan Slott for being a lazy writer.
Yeah.
I have a good analogy for Dan Slott. He's Movie Bob with talent.
Oh my God.
I wish Frugal was here. So, and by the way, he went after Captain Frugal of all people. Look, I know Frugal has an acidic tongue. He can burn you. He's really funny. He's got his, but he's also one of the nicest freaking guys you will ever. There's
a reason why he's Cap around here, because he basically is Cap.
He is. He's one of the nicest guys, and Dan Slott decided the direction of his ire needed to be going in Captain Frugal's direction. I forget the details, but Dan Slott actually faked his identity, and faked being somebody else, like an actual real person, in order to get revenge on somebody else or something. It was, he did do, when Ethan Van Sciver first started his channel, I remember him doing an interview there. I thought was okay. They talked about comics and that was good. But as soon as he gets off the comics thing, he just jumps on to anybody. And he's a horrible person like that. Jimmy Quirks, a big fan of Dan Slott, by the way, big defender of Dan Slott, was speaking to him one day, and Jimmy says, "Yeah, but what about he says, what about this person? They're good people. They're good people." He brings up my name. I've never talked to Dan Slott for anything. Dan Slott, by name, called me a racist and a bigot and a homophobe. And it was what the hell?
Which, by the way, if you are a homophobe, Eglantine, you're the worst one I've ever seen because you're terrible at it.
I keep you on here so I can insult you. That's the only reason you're here, there, Dan. Obviously.
That tracks. And of course, I'm joking.
Yeah, right. He is ridiculously offensive.
Yeah. Well,
and he managed to ruin Spider-Man. Okay.
Well,
what's up, Elton?
Just to piggyback on that, you talked about is, looking at the Spider-Man he writes now, and I'm not ashamed to say he wrote one of my all-time favorite Spider-Man stories.
Okay.
He wrote this fantastic 5-issue miniseries, Spider-Man Human Torch, that went through their entire relationship and history, and tells the story, and has one of the most touching ends that, where they, both, Johnny and Peter, come to realize, actually, hey, actually we're really good, we're really good friends, and, we have a lot of similarities, and it's more been a competitive rivalry and things like that. And this fantastic ending where, Reed and Sue, the Richards, invite the Parkers over to the Baxter building. And, so they meet MJ and Aunt May, for the first time, and it ends with them, like having a barbecue at the top of the Baxter building. And it was just one of the sweetest endings. And I remember, it got a little dusty in here, way back when the first time I read it. And it's a fantastic story because it just nails Peter, it nails Johnny. It's so good. And then you look at the stuff he's done recently, and it's not the same person. I mean, it almost makes me question, like, did he have a ghostwriter back then?
She-Hulk.
Doing stuff.
I loved his run on She-Hulk. To me,
yeah, that was very good too.
The triple play of John Byrne, the sensational hero. I call it the John Byrne run, but there were more creators on it than just John Byrne. But the sensational She-Hulk, then you have Dan Slott's run, which leads into Peter David's run. That is the greatest, or some of the greatest comic book writing. It's definitely for She-Hulk anyway. So yeah, I've always defended Dan Slott's She-Hulk run, but what he did outside of the books, there you go. So I guess we've talked a lot. I'm going to wrap it up here a lot, and maybe I asked the question a little bit too soon, like who would you pick as the worst? Is it worse like with the T. Franklin thing where she's losing her shit over the smallest stuff, and she's kind of going, it seems like she's kind of fallen into quicksand, where she complained, she bitched, she looked bad, somebody said something, so she complained and she did, and she looked bad, and then somebody else talks about her and she complains. Like she just can't get out of that cycle, so every time she sees a little thing, she's going off big where she doesn't need to be. Is it that kind of thing, or is she genuinely just a toxic person? Or is that bad? Or is it worse when you're a CB Cebulski and you don't say no, you let Marvel Comics get ruined, or you let the stuff on the page go bad because of what's happening behind it, or you self-insert your politics, calling anybody who disagrees with you the villain? Like, what is the worst to you? Is it the behind the scenes or on the page that really is the worst for you as far as who's the worst in comics?
I can't believe we almost forgot this guy, but Alan freaking Moore, Mr. I will disavow literally everything good I've ever done because I don't like it anymore. And by the way, everyone who's ever read my books is a bad person because reasons.
I'll tell you what Alan Moore did for me. Alan Moore did a convention, and he was talking, and he did this whole speech about Stan Lee, and he says, I'm just like you guys. Stan Lee's the man. He's wonderful. He's brilliant. He's this. And then I start seeing Stan Lee created, Stan Lee created, Stan Lee created. And I was like, well, wait a second. Stan Lee and Jack Kirby created. And so he looked more into it, and you come to find the pages, and you come to find everything where Stan Lee says, guy goes into the room, they fight, and then Jack Kirby would come back with everything, and he's like, who really created Marvel Comics? That's one of the...
It's a Bill Finger situation. Same thing with Doctor Strange and Steve Ditko.
It's one of the reasons why I encourage Jack, because Jack was looking for, well, what video do? I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that. And I told him, we're going to do the history of Jack Kirby. And I did some research for him, but mostly that's my brother. I said, just do the research, make sure that everything you record is actually the fact. I don't, let's put that out there. You can embellish a little emotion into it, but really we want to get the facts out there. And I love Stan Lee, man. Stan Lee is the face of comic books, not just Marvel. When you think of Stan Lee, he's comics. He's Marvel and DC.
He's the Edison of comics.
Yeah, he was Stan the Man. He was Uncle Stan in the morning times on Saturday. Face front, true believers. I wish we had Trusty here so he could say that. Face front, true believers, and that would start off every freaking Saturday morning for me with the Incredible Hulk cartoons with oh goodness, Spider-Man is Amazing Friends. He is the man, but he buried his co-creators. And I don't know if he did it all or if we did it. But there you go. Once again, we highlight the super chats, dude. You can read off.
There's something that must be said about that whole he's the crazy wizard of comics thing.
Yeah.
Because on that topic, one of the most heinous things Alan Moore has ever done, he wrote Prometheus specifically as a narrative spell to try and end the world because he's that nihilistic now.
Okay.
So on that topic, as a practicing occultist myself, I have to disavow Alan Moore as a wizard.
I'm sorry. Say what? Because I read most, if not all, of the Promethea run and enjoyed it a lot. But that suddenly sheds a whole new light. Did you ever read his Neonomicon?
I did not know.
Okay. Check, if you ever get the chance, check out the first issue of that, because that is actually freaky as hell.
No.
Because it's wild what he and his artists do, like with the gutters between the panels.
Now we brought up Dan Slott, and Maranya said, "Nope, I'm in." Slott flat out told all of Iron Man fans out there that he planned to make them angry, and to be fair, he succeeded.
Yeah.
Dan Slit had a fit over parody count. Says Undead Quinn. Yep. Frankly, oh, that's right. That's right. It was on the Ethan Van Sciver interview. I thought that was Mark Waid, but apparently it was a Dan Slott thing. Somebody came up with a parody account and got mad. Franklin is not even worthy of the title. She has no history to be in comics or even having anything to do with comics as Man of Action. She's been, I think, what is it, 13 years is what the people on the Twitter feed said.
Yeah, maybe.
So confirmed, Dan Slott hates gay couples and doesn't apologize for it.
Well, fuck you too then.
Where did we go?
Not quite sure what that was referring to, but I mean,
I love Alan Moore. He's a weirdo who does pretty well on calling balls and strikes, says Clint. Maranya saying T. Franklin flat out lied about Grant Gustin and Steve Arnett. Stephen Arnett or Stephen Amell?
Mel.
Yeah.
Clint, I think,
to try to get them canceled, plus made drunk videos lying about people at DC Comics. Mysteriously, the tweets and videos vanished, which is probably what happened with the Ethan Van Sciver.
But again, with that, and this is why, I mean, just kind of wrap it up to say that really the worst person, is the executives at DC and Marvel, is because she got rewarded for that stuff.
Okay.
So again, she's just a symptom of a larger issue. And if you had higher ups that actually took the job seriously and hired quality people and got rid of the troublemakers, then you wouldn't have these problems, and the T. Franklins of the world would be off writing for Black Mask and smaller independents, and we would never hear of them.
Let's see. Well, my fiance just picked up my copy of Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, so when I got off work, it's time to go, says Geek Hero. And Moran says both Slott and Wade had parody accounts show up in live streams. Wade was the one who went nuclear demanding EVS take care of it. Okay. So it was Wade that lost his crap on it. Alan Moore and Frank Miller were both great. They've both lost their minds. Age sets in. Have you seen Frank Miller these days? I watched him because he was at the MegaCon and he was being led. Man looks frail as hell. I hope he is in better health than he looks. If not, pray for Frank Miller. Yeah. I don't think he's done a lot great or even good in the last 20 years, but those first 20 years, freaking amazing.
Yeah, he looks like the male Dianne Feinstein.
He's supposed to be the same age as JR.
I swear to God, my mind went to Dallas.
Aspar and Holy Terror are almost bad enough combined to undo the awesomeness of Dark Knight Returns. Almost being the operative word.
Not there. Even close. I'm sorry, but like I said, I am not a big Frank Miller fan, and I am not nominating him for worst of anything. Yeah, I just don't like his. I don't like what he puts on the page these days.
Also, make sure you don't say the name more than 5 times in case we summon you know who.
Oh, Ash is always welcome. Are you kidding me? Yeah, I welcome Ash to the channel anytime he wants to come on. Ash has been a part of the crowd and a part of the family for some time. And one thing you can say about Ash is he at least sticks to his guns. And sometimes Ash sticks to his guns a little bit too much and to the detriment of himself and all. Mm-hmm. No? Okay, just tried. Speaking of health, do you hear Dolph Lundgren has lung cancer? Shit. No,
yeah, I feel sorry for lung cancer.
But he's fighting. Yeah, he's fighting. So, we'll see.
So I actually agree with you. I think there you go. Let's just name the editors in chief. Won't you shit on the camera?
So a moment of silence for lung cancer.
Well, good. Yeah, so you're right. And I remember we used to actually put out a call. Can you please have people keep in mind that we're here to listen to them or to see what's going on in this issue, what's going on in that issue, and so forth and so on. Obviously, Marvel and DC can't have that. My suggestion would be to ask the writers and artists to discuss comics on DC and Marvel's Twitter feed, and they could talk their politics all over the place. I'll say this. I'll agree with you that the editors of Marvel and DC are the worst people in comics because they won't listen to their fans. And I'm sorry, but that blue-haired person crying feminism, gay rights, whatever it is, which I'm not against either one, except for modern-day feminism. But if you're, I should say identity politics more than the other two, because I'm not against first-wave feminism or second wave, and I'm not against gay rights, obviously. But I hate the identity politics, and what's worse is you bring it to politics. Comics have always had politics in them. That's a freaking fact. You can't get away from it. If you deny it, you're lying to yourself. But
it used to be a philosophical issue, though, rather than a piece of dogma that we settled on.
Thank you very much. I'm getting there. Okay, I'm trying to sign off here. You're awesome, man. You're like, let me jump the gun and get to the end of your sentence. Okay, so politics have always been in comics. They really have. But they used to be more vague. Not so much, we weren't calling people out. That just wasn't. Racism is bad. Everybody feels a little odd in themselves. You shouldn't hate people for immutable characteristics. Violence, I love this one, is never the answer. In comics, that's ridiculous. Bullying is bad. Yeah, you would have all these messages, but they never pointed fingers. And that's the big thing. If you did it in such a way where you have to read into it a little bit. Nixon is a serpent, as a matter of fact, in Captain America.
In Serpent Society, yeah, I remember.
Ronald Reagan being an idiot in Dark Knight Returns. Okay, fine. Yeah, he's pointing and he's saying, okay, this version of politics is bad. What I think is funny is the evil side of politics right now that was presented in Alan Moore's V for Vendetta is kind of circled now, or at least did a 180. So it went from the fascist right to the fascist left. But the worst part of it is nowadays you're pointing fingers. Nowadays, you're not screaming Nazis are bad. You're screaming those people are Nazis, or those people are bad because they're Nazis. And that's only because people like myself have said that the Falcon should be highlighted, not as Captain America, but as the Falcon. He shouldn't lose his identity. Now you're saying we're racist when we're thinking, wait a second, why do you have Riri Williams in an Iron Man comic when she should have her own and bring back Tony Stark in Iron Man? That's the reason for Nazism now. That's the reason for the racism. That's the reason for the homophobic nature of man. You know, that's you're pointing fingers, and that's the worst. And that is why I think you're absolutely right about the editors-in-chief being the worst people in comics. All right, if anybody wants to close out, there you go. I'll get some comments after.
I think there's something to be said for, they used to do more lore research and character research in the 60s and 70s when they literally had to go read the issues or find an encyclopedia somewhere than they do now, when the necessary information is literally a Google or a ChatGPT away. It baffles me. Like, all it takes is 5 seconds of Googling and you would know this character inside and out. But no, apparently not.
Well, it used to be more of less, I'd say, politics and more of timeless themes. You know, it was themes and ideas. You know, on another stream I was watching today, somebody brought up the fact of, you know, why the 78 Superman movie is so perfect. And again, it's where you go to that example, and for instance, you have the villain, the Lex Luthor character played in that, and he's looking to, sorry, spoilers for a 50-year-old movie, that he's looking to set off the earthquakes to create beachfront property, and he's doing that for greed and power, but it was just him doing that. It didn't become some kind of like diatribe of capitalism is bad and all that. It was just, that was the character. It played off of classic themes of good versus bad, hard work.
He was saving us from California.
Yeah. Look at it now,
I will say the 78 Superman movie doesn't hold up as well as everyone thinks it does. Again,
that could be another video on another day.
Is Eglinton going to change his title every stream? It's the same. I didn't go out. Oh, okay. Never mind. Maybe. I think this one fits. You're talking about the little thing underneath the makes bald and fat look sexy. I think that's a catch-all. Right there, it's good for all occasions. Ashley Wood's art works better art print, not comics, says Undead Quinn. Let's see. Did you know Dolph was a certified genius? Yes, I did. Let's see. We blame the writers and artists for bad books. The real blame lies with the editors and others further up the chain of authority to pass veto trash books, says Maranya. Let's see. He has a PhD in chemistry or something. Yep. Comics used to promote political discussion for the fans to decide. Now they just preach. Yes, and that's what makes it bad.
It's a philosophical issue.
And that's something that Evie says, you're the problem. And that's one thing they can't get. They say, well, we say you got to change the politics in comics. Politics have always been in comics. Yes, they have. So why is it now you guys are starting to suck at politics? Think about it and change. They haven't been able to change. I was going to bring this up earlier. The comic sales have declined to the point where they've got to bring in Captain Underpants and what's his name, Dogface Boy or whatever it is. These books that aren't actually
Dogman.
You're talking about things like Dogman, Captain Underpants.
Yeah, they're added in to make it look like comics are doing better than ever, but they're not, and they have been declining greatly. And you, as comic book writers and artists, I should say because I know they're not watching, they don't listen to the fans who are saying, no, this isn't the way to go. Instead, you're an ist, you're an ism. Let's see. We do and we should also blame editors. We should also blame the bigwigs for not setting forth the creative standard, enforcing the rules, which I also agree with. You, like I said earlier, the editors all the way up to and mostly CB Cebulski have to say no. And the rule that they should follow, like John Byrne said, do no harm. You have an idea for Spider-Man, bring it in. But you can't do any harm. You have an idea for Tim Drake? Great. What's your idea? Tim's gay. No, he's been trying to go after Stephanie Brown for 30 years. Do no harm. You want to tell a gay story? Make a character or find somebody whose sexuality has not been explored yet. Okay? John Kent, fine. Do you understand you're destroying Krypton? They're the last son of Krypton now has a son, and you just totally wiped out his bloodline.
He's a filthy half-breed anyway. It's fine.
Exactly. Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Also, Lois is still around. Superman's still they're still young. They can get more.
They could, and maybe they should get to go. Maybe. Oh wait, if I want the bloodline of Krypton, now it's almost an imperative that he has another child, because if he wants the bloodline of Krypton to continue, he's got to get working. With the X-Men, the thing that was something else too. The message of racism is bad, sure, but anybody could be in X-Men, which is something I've said on this channel many, many times. The brilliance of the X-Men was that they are everybody. Everyone feels weird when puberty hits. Everybody's a little bit of an outsider, even if
an
you're
outcast
part of
any description.
Yeah, even if you're part of the crowd. Do they like me? Is it because of this? Is it because of that? I mean, you're unsure of yourself because you're becoming yourself. That's the brilliance of the X-Men. When you bring it so narrow that it only includes you and your group, you're freaking doing harm. I should get a job as an editor at Marvel.
but I'm the wrong sex, wrong sexual orientation, and wrong gender.
Well, and it goes back to what I always say when it comes to changes, which is it's not that it's different, it's that it's worse. Changes for the better are good changes. Changes that are equal in equal in terms of what they do, that's fine. But changes that are categorically worse are not good.
They were against
also Battle City of Kandor.
They were against far right, not regular right. Now I've said this before. Find somebody who calls it the right wing. They don't. It's always alt-right or far right. Nobody is just a right winger. Nobody's a little bit on the conservative side. Everybody's a far right conspiracist and everything. They've gone freaking bonkers with this crap. Moran said manga and shockingly enough, crowdfunded books are being counted in terms of comic books being better than never. That she ain't wrong. I'm actually surprised. Is that true? They're counting crowdfunding as well. The people they drove off,
despite the fact that they shame them at every given opportunity. Yes, they count them in the numbers.
That's because they started doing crowdfunding themselves.
Wow.
They realized there's money there, and now they're chasing clout.
But yes,
it's not going to work though.
Is popping up the shell they call the comic book industry, says Geek Hero. Wait, did he pronounce Krypton like normal, like normies do not like the right one? Did I say Krypton and not Krypton?
Yes.
I'm going to pull a Steven Crowder and just say, admonish me. And now I'm going to go yell at my wife. Hold on. I'm just kidding. Don't judge a man off of 2 seconds worth of a video during a divorce. Gail and I watched that and we thought about when we were going through our problems, all the evil shit we said to each other. You can't count that when you're having problems and when you're headed in that direction. Well, wow.
Everybody gets a mulligan.
I said this about Jimmy. God bless him. I love Jimmy Quirks, but he went off on Steven Crowder and I said, I could only imagine what you would think of me if you saw the wrong 30 seconds or what you would think of Gail if you saw the wrong 30 seconds while we were fighting and arguing before we had our split. Let's see where else. Tom Taylor, Brian Michael Bendis, John Kent aren't the Jonathan Samuel Kent of Dan Jurgens and Peter J. Tomasi. They are two completely different characters. Bendis Taylor is Skinwalker John Kent. Now, here's the thing Tehillium's bringing up, and obviously Tehillium is a huge Super Sons fan. Jeff Johns opened the multiverse, opened up the different worlds. So, yes, you can write John Kent as John Kent. You can bring him back and forget about everything that Bendis did to him and forget about all of that just by saying he's in another world and never returning to that world again. Never have to go to it again.
I love the fact that Jeff Johns has just brought back the child sidekicks. So,
dude, don't spoil. I haven't read 6 yet. Don't spoil shit. 2 of the best books out there, Justice Society and Stargirl. Don't spoil anything.
And Junkyard Joe.
Yeah,
the man still has it.
What?
And Junkyard Joe, the man still has it.
Okay.
Are you not reading Junkyard Joe?
No, I haven't been. I'll have to check it out.
You reading Junkyard Joe?
Okay, I will.
Yeah.
Let's see. Englentine, did you see that new Little Mermaid picture caused controversy the other day? Oh, the one with the eye?
Yeah. The one I posted to chat. Well, because, I mean, what's hilarious is it was from a tweet from Entertainment Weekly that was, saying, hey, Halle Berry's awesome, or the It Girl, or something like that. It's like, what are you doing? I mean, it looks like she's having a stroke.
I may, by the way, have put Little Mermaid a little too high on my top 10 list. We'll find out. I still say these things, for as much as we hate them, make serious bank. For those of you who don't know, we did when we did, what was it, our Guardians review or something?
Yeah, at the tail end of our Guardians review, Englentine gave his top 10 expected box office performers list, basically, of the summer.
The top 10 biggest blockbusters. I got to separate it and put it on as its own video. Yeah. The top 10 biggest blockbusters of the summer. And at number 1, I put Little Mermaid. And my thinking was, I have said, and everybody I know has said that The Jungle Book was going to suck. It didn't. Dumbo was going to suck. I don't think so. Authenticator did. But Beauty and the Beast is going to suck. And it did. Lion King is going to suck, and it did, yet they made freaking money. Lion King and Beauty and the Beast made freaking bank.
Yeah.
And so I was like, you know what?
This is gonna be the movie that really tests how damaged the Disney brand is, because as you say, in the past, even when these movies were bad, and most of them were, they still had an appeal. You know, regular families that, you know, weren't deep into, you know, movies and pop culture like us, you know, would still go take their kids to see it. You know, and obviously this is aimed at, you know, little girls, but with the damage that Disney has done to their brand over the last, you know, 2+ years, you know, there are a lot of families now that aren't automatically going, oh, it's a Disney movie, I can go take the kids.
I would love to see, I mean, I wish this happened, if they had a Minions movie or something that they could put right next to it. Like with the success of Puss in Boots.
Yeah.
You know, and
there's Fast X.
Say again?
There's Fast X.
Yeah, different audiences. I mean, the good thing for them.
Oh no, it's a family movie. That's what I'm saying. Put a family movie up against Disney's family movie and see which one wins at this point.
Yeah.
I think
Well, and I was going to say, I mean, I think the good thing is that the only other movie that would be targeting a similar audience is a month away, which is the Barbie movie.
Maybe. I don't know who that movie's for yet.
They have that window. Well,
yeah, I'm not sure if it's actually based on the IP or if they're using it as some kind of uber feminist satire thing.
Oh no, it's fully based on the IP. I don't know if you've seen the trailer. I mean, it's, you know, you've got Barbie and you've got all the Ken, you know, all the Ken.
I'll say it. It looks brilliant. I love the way that the Barbie movie looks, but is it actually for families, or is it because it looks like it might have an edge to it that it's more for adults? But if it's like what I said before, if it is the great made for kids but adults can enjoy it too, then we're looking forward to it.
I don't know if they'll be able to make a Barbie movie that's better than the Disney Channel original movie Life Size with Tyra Banks back in the day.
So Jay Lucian is asking Geek Hero, like, is there an example of right-wingers in a positive light in comics? There is a book. It came out just a little bit ago. LK, you and I both talked about it. The guy's he's got a tail. It's red and
Common America for one, but
no, well, yeah, that. But I'm talking. Okay, and this one was released in comic shops though, and it had. I remember I talked about it, and I said this has such a right-wing stance, and it's mentioned over and over again that I have to blast it for being the opposite side of the politics coin. You know, I couldn't give it a good review because had the politics been leftist, I would have been calling it shit.
It's just as forced and moralistic as the other one.
I think it started with an X or an S. I'm sorry.
What did you say the character was like?
He had a tail. I remember it was black and red outfit. I'm seeing. I may.
I'm not thinking that. I mean, you know, while not necessarily right wing, I mean, definitely that if you go and read Erratic,
that's it. That's it. Erratic. The first issue had so much right wing politics. So that one, by the way, and it did show right wingers in a positive light.
Yeah, I mean, I would probably argue more of just showing socialists as their controlling selves, but yeah, I mean, you can take it either way.
I don't think it'll do well in theaters, but do well in streaming, says Clint.
Well, I mean, you know, that's the thing. But as I say, I mean, this will be the interesting litmus test. And again, too, you talk about, you know, damage to the brand. I mean, you know, for the most part, you know, audiences have liked Guardians of the Galaxy, but I mean, it's underperforming in terms of what a Marvel movie should be doing, even compared to what Guardians 1 and 2 did.
I have to say this upon my fourth viewing of the film, which has now become my favorite movie of the year.
Oh my God.
This is actually it is a great freaking Marvel movie.
I think you're being too nice to it, but okay.
I think no, you know what? It spoke to me a lot better and louder than it spoke to you. That's just the way it works sometimes. And this one, like I started when we did our review, I was like, you know, I don't think I would put this as my favorite Guardians of the Galaxy movie. It's climbing that ladder. I know there's only 3, but I've recently watched all of them in order and everything. It is such a great send off to the characters. It's an incredible film. My favorite of the year so far. England Teen, I seem to recall Jeff Johns taking a. Wasn't I saying goodnight?
Yeah,
it
became a half-hour goodbye.
That's fine. I seem to recall Jeff Johns taking a pot shot at Antifa and Doomsday Clock or one of those lefty radical groups briefly, says MK. There you go. Mario is my favorite film, says Geek Hero. Okay, well, that's a good. What is your favorite movie of the year so far? Mine, like I said, mine might be Guardians, but I would have to look through because I watch a shit ton of independent movies and such. So,
yeah, I mean, honestly, I would probably right now still go for John Wick 4.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but I mean, Guardians is up there in terms of like the most fun movie I've seen this year. But,
Mario Geek Hero says Captain America up to Civil War can be considered conservative, says Maranya. One thing I liked about, and this is absolutely, I think, the way Captain America should be written, is he was for America. He was very patriotic, but he was willing to call out the government. The government is not the country. That's another thing that the
sentiment is the country, the principles.
Yeah, the Captain America should be guardian of the Constitution, not the government, and there's a big difference. It should be the ideals. America was based on individualism, based on the idea that you yourself can govern yourself better than any government, and that should be the main ideals of Captain America.
Which I was happy to see they kept in the Civil War movie as well. His argument of we're not perfect, but the safest hands are still our own. That's perfect for Cap.
What do you say? That's not perfection. Whatever it's fear. I forget the line, but I love that line. This is also why I don't see it as a good thing. First of all, I think it's a racist sentiment to think that Falcon has ascended because he became Captain America. But I also don't believe that Captain America would accept other people calling themselves Captain America. He is Captain America. And he's not saying you're not Captain America because he is, but he's saying you shouldn't be calling yourself Captain America because you should be you. You are your own individual self. Don't be a different me, whether you're better or worse. Be you. And that's how Captain America would act and react to that situation.
Well, I see that somebody didn't read the Captain America road trip miniseries there.
No, that's what I'm literally attacking that freaking
the United States of Captain America or whatever that was.
Yeah.
Oh,
I did read 2 issues, by the way. And it took me 2 panels.
Because we are all Captain America. Don't you understand?
No. That's the big problem.
The serum got lost after the first go. Yeah, everyone knows this.
Oh, come on, Dalton. All you need to do is just get a trash can lid and throw a...
Okay, first of all, I wouldn't even want to be Captain America because my particular individual personality leads more towards a magic user than a Captain America type figure. Well, that's one thing.
The good thing is
you can be Captain Sorcerer.
You can strap your walker or your ECV to your back and you can swing around because it's in the comics.
There was
to the head for all of you for reminding me that exists.
Hey, disabled people have superpowers, Dalton. If you can't see that, you're a bigot.
Well, I mean, isn't it the
boot to the head?
Isn't it being disabled is its own superpower?
Exactly. Yes.
Fuck that noise entirely. I hate when they do that. I absolutely abjectly hate when they turn the disability into a non-disability just for the sake of the
Walker
ego boost.
I saw a girl in braces do a freaking somersault over 2 people.
Sorry.
All right. Just because you haven't trained yourself.
So speaking of disabilities, did you say you watched Peter Pan and Wendy on Disney Plus, England Hain?
Yeah, both Dalton.
We did, yes, we reviewed it.
And short.
Fine. Yeah. It's Peter Pan and Wendy, except for here's the thing. Peter Pan, the classic that everybody's used to, is focused on Peter Pan, but it was really a story about Wendy. This one goes the opposite, and I think that's what a lot of people are having a problem with, because they complain it focuses on Wendy, but the story is actually about Peter Pan and Captain Hook, so they kind of reversed it a little bit. So while you're watching Wendy do a lot of stuff, the true story, the characters who have arcs, is Captain Hook and Peter Pan. Now, is the movie great? No, it's not. But except for what you see on the screen, okay, now they've got girls and the Lost Boys, which is stupid, but and they do have a kid with Down syndrome as one of the leaders of the Lost Boys. That's as far as it goes as wokeism. Sorry, gang,
Clint, in a lot of cases, that's just true, though. Have you seen what 4chan can do when they put their minds to it?
There you go. So yeah, it does focus on Wendy, but the true story is about Peter Pan and Captain Hook. And I do like a lot of the stuff they did with Captain Hook and the pirates, because they are in fact lost boys who grew up and they kind of yearn for their childhood again. But they can't get out because they become adults, and now they see the world for what it is rather than what they want it to be, which is what keeps Peter Pan and the Lost Boys young on Neverland. It's watchable, but here's the thing. If you go in and you're looking for shit to complain about, you're going to find it. You will.
See, I liked it a lot less than Angling T did. I came away from it not like putting it one hair's breadth away from unwatchable. I think was where
you are the Gene Siskel and I am the Roger Ebert, which, hey, I'm the fat and boy.
Yeah, you're the Paula Abdul, I'm the Simon Cowell.
I'm gonna go with Gene and Raj for this one, but the thing is I don't think it is as bad as a lot of the people in the group. Or
it could be worse. It could be a lot worse.
Yeah.
Still not good, but it could be a lot worse.
Necessary? No, I wouldn't recommend it over the cartoon. I think the cartoon is brilliant.
Wouldn't even recommend it over the other live action remake of it, which was one from
both of us, we agreed on this, though. Don't make it like I don't agree with you. We both said the best live action version is the 2003 version, the one with Isaac, what's his name, as Captain Hook. Really good. By the way, we also agreed that the worst version is the one with Hugh Jackman.
Oh God, the jukebox musical version. Why does that exist, and why did I have to remember that it exists?
Yeah, I'm sorry you didn't say that the best live action version is Hook.
No, well, no, Hook is a sequel.
Yeah.
Hook is a sequel to Peter Pan. Peter Pan comes home, goes to Wendy. They grow up together. Yeah, this is what happens when everything after the Peter Pan story. Peter Pan has grown up and he goes back. That's a sequel. That's not the story itself. We're talking about straight up the story of Peter Pan. Go for the 2003. However, I'm one of the few people I know that loved Hook because of I think it's one of the last 1980s, and I know it was in the 90s, but bear with me. One of the last 1980s kid films. It's like almost the bridge, because we were trusted with characters dying. We were trusted with dark things in our kid films that they just didn't have moving forward. Even though they movies kind of shred the G rating that we got in the 1980s and such for kids movies, I do believe strongly that they've neutered them. There, you don't have the edge. I got to tell you, Guardians of the Galaxy 3, even though it's a PG rating, you have somebody getting their face ripped off. You got F-bombs dropped. It's the closest thing to an 80s film I've seen in a long time. But Hook is probably the last of the directly aimed at kids and families movie that still had a little bit of an edge.
My only complaint about Hook is the focus on baseball went a little bit too cheeseball for me. Like that was where I drew the line of like you could have cut out the entire baseball subplot and everything would have still been fine.
Well, the fact that he grew up in England, it should have been cricket. So
yeah, that's that, or croquet or something. Yeah.
Now Maranya's saying that she watched the Brady movie, brilliant film by the way, the other day, and wow, it definitely could not be made these days. A subplot with Marsha's female friend with a crush on her would be more. Yeah, that's true. Let's see. I'm okay with Down syndrome kid being a leader. That super strength comes in handy. England
Womp.
team are more excited for Sweet Tooth season 2 or Sweet Tooth from Twisted. I'm not excited for either one. I haven't watched Sweet Tooth season 1 yet.
It wasn't great. It was entirely skippable. I was looking forward to it, and they disappointed me.
I tried to watch the first episode, and it was boring. So I figure I'll try to go back to it at some point in time. I still haven't made it past. I haven't made it to episode number 2 of Cloak and Dagger. I haven't watched The Tick yet, and I love The Tick. I haven't watched season 2 of Legend. Was that the
No, Legends of Tomorrow?
No. The one with Professor X's kid.
Legion.
Legion.
Yeah.
There's a whole bunch of comic film TV shows I've just missed. I haven't watched the last few seasons of Legend of Tomorrow or the last few seasons of The Flash.
MK, I'm not calling out baseball. I'm just saying that what it did for the plot in Hook was one step too far for me.
Hook is one of my favorite movies of all time, says Geek Hero. Hook plus Robin Williams, man. It was only Dustin Hoffman could have played opposite of Robin Williams. One of my favorite backstage stories of that, Dustin Hoffman, he's a method actor. So he comes on and goes, okay, what's my motivation? And there's a famous line from The Marathon Man Dustin Hoffman did with Laurence Olivier. And he goes, and to be method, Dustin Hoffman, before he had to go on and act, actually ran until he was exhausted. And Laurence Olivier looks at him and goes, have you ever tried acting, my dear boy? So I love that line because that just goes to all these method actors. And so on set, Dustin Hoffman's like, what's my motivation? What's my motivation? Robin Williams just yells out, have you ever tried acting, my dear boy? And I thought, okay, good job. Good job. Let's see. Enjoyed rewatching. I know it's a fun film. It really is. And the sets on Hook were incredible. You know what I have been enjoying, because I've been also watching a lot of, I'm sure they're going to get rid of it, the older films on Disney, on Disney Plus, like Adventures of Bullwhip Griffin, the Apple Dumpling Gang, the Ugly Dash Hound, and so forth. So you can tell everything's a set. You can tell, and you have the ADR and all that kind of stuff, and it's so fake. I've been loving that fakeness. Now the CG is supposed to be all photorealistic and everything. I've been enjoying the artifice of movies from the past. Let's see. Peter Pan's son was American, so baseball makes sense. Dalton just showed us it. Oh, wow. They went after you for it. Let's see. Clint says,
I know. It's not just that it's sports ball, which, yes, I do have a bias against all sports balls, but again, it didn't make any sense to the plot, and it's one of those things of like, and I point this out. I literally thought the first time I watched this is only here because it's a 80s movie.
There you go. I did like Legion. I saw the first season, but I just never made it back. It's the same as Runaways. I thought Runaways was fine. Never made it to the second season. Let's see. The actor who played Shmi was Bob Hoskins. Yes. Shmi is me. The point was that Hook was there for his game when Peter wasn't. Yeah, well,
right. But again, it comes off as a little bit too cheeseball to be sincere. Is the thing. Like
the movie is
could have edited out and it would have been fine. It
really is. The movie is a cringe fest, but it's done in such a brilliant way. And I think that's why I like it as much, because it kind of embraces that. And I get it. I did make fun of at one point because, spoiler alert for a 30-year-old movie. Rufio gets stabbed by Hook and he's laying in his arms. And instead of Captain Hook going, oh, well, there's Peter Pan, let me stab him in the brain. They let him play out this one scene. And Rufio's like, do you know what I wish? I swear to God, I said out loud in the theater, not to be stabbed, but he's like, I wish I had a dad like you. Not to be stabbed would be number one. Let's go. If you're on the wish list,
child logic, though. Logic. But in any case, fun fact, guys, did you know the actor who played Rufio was also the voice actor for Zuko in
everybody
Avatar:
knows
The Last Airbender and
Everybody knows
American Dragon Jake Long, Dante Bosco.
Let's see. Bedtime. Have a good night, everyone. Says Joe. The Runaways crossover with Cloak and Dagger was great. Oh, maybe I'll actually watch it. Hey, Englatine, which series did you like better, Doom Patrol or Doom Patrol? Actually, you can almost say which is better, Doom Patrol, and all of them are going to fall. Doom Patrol. Is awesome.
Insert option. Doom Patrol still wins.
I actually don't think it's the best comic book show. But then look, I said it quickly because it's Doom Patrol. Doom Patrol is fucking amazing.
Umbrella Academy is still freaking amazing, though. To be fair,
I love Umbrella Academy. I've watched all 3 seasons, and all 3. People said they had a problem with number 2, and I was like, "What's the problem?"
Yeah, season 2 was a little bit shaky. The writing and characters weren't quite as snappy as they were in season 1.
But no, I'm in on Umbrella Academy season 4. I like Doom Patrol. I wish they would continue with that. So, yeah, I think
season 4 is going to be the last season of Umbrella Academy, and that kind of makes me sad. I could basically watch a solo show, which is just 5 doing 5 things.
Yeah. If they keep it to the comics, and look, even if they don't tell the exact story, Doom Patrol is so accurate to the comics that as far as tone and as far as the craziness that they had in the Morrison run, it was Morrison, right?
It's what Eternal should have been, basically, pretty much. 2 different,
but the thing is I think it's just crazy enough, and it works. And yeah, Doom Patrol's awesome. Doom Patrol dropped off hard during the final season, though. Okay, that I liked it better than you, but it's okay. We find that to be a truth of mine. I don't tend to watch a lot of stuff that I don't like. Like if I'll put on an episode of something, if it isn't working, forget about it. I made 3 episodes of that 90s show. I liked that 70s show well enough to make it to the final season, which sucked. But that 90s show, 3 episodes, and there were a couple of other shows like that this year.
Liam, I agree. Umbrella Academy is one of the few cases of the show actually improving on the comic a little bit.
I agree with you too. The racism cyborg preachiness pissed me. I didn't get that, but that might actually be. I didn't see it where you saw it. When a fat kid gets Peter Pan's sword, so cool. Yeah, that in Hook. Yeah. You know what? Let's call it. We talked about is T. Franklin the worst person in comics? I challenged goodness, what's his name? Wes. I challenged Wes on that, since he made a statement and a question in the same in the title and the thumbnail. Figured let's talk about it, and I agree. CB Cebulski, and who is the editor at DC Comics? Does anybody know? I don't know.
Well, I mean, who knows? But I mean, I'm just
who fucking cares?
If he's a figurehead, making a figurehead for this.
They are the worst people in comics because they are not doing enough to make sure that comics stay well written, well drawn, and more importantly, made for everyone. And that's the big problem. And I don't know about you, but God dang it, if I don't roll my eyes and lose interest immediately anytime I ever hear anybody say made for a modern audience, because I know what it's going to be.
Yeah,
according to Google, it's Marie Chavins.
Marie Chavins. There you go. Okay, so CB Cebulski and Marie Chavins. Worst people in comics. I don't care. All righty, you kids have a great time.
Answer to the question in your video title. Of course, you have to care.
Okay, it's Chavins or Chavins?
Chavins.
Chavins.
J
or J.
Javins. Yeah. Oh, okay.
Javins.
Right. There you go. Now I said it right. All right, kids. Hey, look, we're doing this again tomorrow night around 9 o'clock. So join us for another gab fest about whatever the hell we want to talk about. And on Saturday, we have an auction. A lot of good things, and I'm going to be going to the warehouse sale to hopefully buy more for the for the auction as well. One thing I got, sometimes I find a comic book and I know it's for someone. Like I go, oh, okay, this person's going to love that. VENKMAN, if you're still listening, I found a Master of Kung Fu with with Billy Jack. So there you go. All righty, kids. Thank you very much for hanging out with us. And as always, thank you very, very much for watching. Have a good night.
Cheers, guys.
Later, people.